factoring by grouping. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to take like a polynomial of maybe 4 terms. You're going to see some similarity in 2, but not the other 2. So you're going to group them accordingly. That's what factoring by grouping is, okay? You're going to use this later, okay? That's the gist of it, okay? From there, you're going to find the greatest common factor from each piece separately, factor it out, okay? And then we'll see that there will be a shared piece between both halves, okay? So here's what we want to do, okay? Remember, what did we do this morning? Common factoring, sorry. Okay, and we're always trying to common factor first. That's always so. Hopefully, by the time we hit lesson 6 and you've written this list 6 times, we've drilled the sequence into your head. Okay, common factoring always first. Second one we're going to try grouping. That's what we're doing right now. Okay, you'll usually have 2 terms with grouping. Okay, so let's try one first. Okay, this is how I always kind of indicate how to do these questions. I see 4 terms here, right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. I see that like, or you will see in some other questions that there's not much. You have to rearrange it first, but you can arrange it such a way that like some pieces have more in common with some pieces than the others. That's what grouping is. Okay, so we're going to group according to what we think is similar. Okay? Does that make sense? So I see 2 pieces here. Okay? This one's pretty easy. I don't think I have to shake anything up yet. Okay? But if I draw a line down the middle, what's in common with the first 2 terms? They both have an A. So let's be like a greatest common factor that I could pull out, right? So A. Then what would be left after I take the A out of those 2 things? X, yeah, so on the inside you're going to go X plus Y. Okay, on the other half now, remember this question's been grouped kind of for you. Okay, sometimes you might just have 4 terms on a page. You got to select what you want to do. This one's an introduction question. Okay, so on the other half, what's common on the other side? Yes, 2. So let's take that out. Is it plus or minus?
Minus. Plus.
Okay, plus. So we're going to include a plus 2 in the middle. Then I'm going to open the bracket. What's left after you take the 2 out of these 2 pieces, number 3 and 4?
X plus Y.
Oh, that's nice, isn't it? Now that looks like this question that we did earlier, right? This W plus 1 question, or even G. I see a W plus 1 in all 3 pieces, so I took it out. Okay, well, let's go back. I see an X plus Y in both pieces. Let's take it out of both pieces. So here's what happens. I'm going to divide both these by X plus Y. Remember that X plus Y would have kind of been the greatest common factor here, so I'm going to write it out front. What's left after I take the X plus Y out? So in other words, after I cancel them. What's left? Lucas, yeah? A plus 2. Okay, that's just an introductory question. It hopefully will solidify itself as you start to work through some with actual numbers and variables. Okay, the more of these you do, again, it just gets easier and easier the more of them you do. Okay, so I'm gonna write some steps down here. Okay, I'm gonna copy these because You guys will copy them too, okay? So the first one's always look to, can you rearrange what's there to group them so that they're like, okay? So sometimes you might not need to. Okay, so you're going to rearrange the terms if you need to pair them into groups, okay? In this question, we looked at, okay, well, sorry. In the question we just did, you kind of looked at, okay, there's two terms with an A in it and then two terms with the twos in it. So you group them accordingly. You just kind of separated them, right? Had they been mixed up, you would have just moved them around to group them accordingly. Okay, we'll see that in a sec, okay? Second step, we said was you're going to factor out within, I'm just going to copy this because I could say as many words as I want. I might not articulate it in the condensed way that is condensed here. Okay, so factor within your groups. I'd probably say too many words and it wouldn't fit in the box. Okay. By finding the greatest common factor for each. Okay. The third step is then common factor. Okay, what's a binomial?
Two terms together.
Yeah. So something like x squared plus x or something. There's two terms. That's a binomial. A trinomial would have like three terms. Okay? Okay, but in this question, or for the groupings, for the most part in this course, you're gonna try and factor by grouping with binomials. Okay? So just like these questions, you're gonna try and create two separate groups that have two terms in them each, for the most part. Okay? Can't think off the top of my head any examples that would not be the case. Okay? Let's try a couple. This is a short lesson, okay, but a very, very important skill that you'll use later. Okay? So let's take a look at A here. You're gonna try and factor it, but factor it by grouping, okay? So I'm looking at two things. I'm looking at numbers and I'm looking at the variables. Okay? Individually, you could group individually, but you want to group as a whole package. So you want to group the terms that look the most similar. So that includes the number and the variables, not just one or the other. Sometimes you might get away with one or the other, but you're looking to group the terms that look most similar. Okay? So in the first one, what would you group together? Let's just say from left to right. Tell me what the right from left to right almost.
Negative 3xy minus 6.
Okay, why did you choose that? You're not wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just asking for clarification for everybody.
I looked at the numbers and 3 and 6 are like multiples of each other and 2 and 4 are multiples of each other.
Okay? 3 and 6 are kind of multiples, but they also both have the x in it, right? Like, you wouldn't necessarily group 2 and 3 together because what are you going to do? 2 and 3 you can't divide 3 by 2. Same thing would be, 6 and 4 wouldn't be bad. Like if you group these two, but then that leaves you stuck with the 2 and 3, right? So there's a little bit of creativity here that you got to look at what's there and then group accordingly, okay? and what we're doing is just going to rewrite this thing. Okay? So you just basically rewrote the line. I won't use an arrow, I'll use an equal sign. From there, you can break the equation in half, like what I did in the first one. What do you see in common in the first two? What do you see in common in the second two? Okay, so let's answer the first question. What's common in the first two? Let's just deal with a number. What could I take out from the numbers in the first two here? Remember, I'm not like, I guess what I'm asking is, what's the greatest common factor? Like, what could I divide both these things by? Equally. Yeah, Wesley.
Minus 3x.
Good. Minus 3x. Okay, so if I were to divide both of these by negative 3x, I'd get a negative 3x out front, and I would write what was left on the inside. Well, what would be left would be the negative 3 would cancel the negative 3, the x would cancel the x, so you're left with just the y there. And then, is everybody okay? Okay, and then in the second one, x's cancel each other, right? They're gone. And then you just have negative 6 divided by negative 3. Well, that's just plus 2, positive 2. Okay, that's the left half. Now we got to deal with the right half of the red line. Okay? What are you going to take out of these two terms over here? That's a 4, by the way. I can't take any y's. There's no y's going out of there because it's not in both of them. But I could take 2 out of both. Plus 2. Open up the bracket. What's left? Y plus 2. What do you notice? This is why I like this. Because you know if you're right or wrong at this stage. Because there's a purpose to this. What do you notice about both halves now? Retta.
Kind of doing, when you factor it, in the brackets, you're getting the same
You're getting the same piece on both sides of your half. That should always be the case. Okay. So now I could divide both of these two pieces by y plus 2, right? Like what I did in the first question. And I should get y plus 2 as the greatest common factor. And then what would be left after you canceled them would be negative 3x plus 2. There's your final answer. Yes, Coco?
Question. So, the second half of the equation, like the second, like that one, it's like plus 2y, and then how did it end up being plus 2 in the bracket?
So all I did, we found that what was common between both of these two pieces,
For 2?
you could divide both of these by 2, right?
Yeah.
That's where this is, or that's your greatest common factor out front.
Oh, okay.
And then you write what's left on the inside. Well, 2's cancel with a 2, and 4 divided by 2 was 2. Is that good? Okay, let's do the next one. What do you want? This one might be a little bit. Okay, right off the bat. Okay, I know you're going to look at things that you just know that aren't going to go together. Like, I know I can't put the 5 with the 9. Like you just can't, right? It's useless. Not even to mention it doesn't even have an x. So that leaves you with now you got to make a decision. Okay, so basically what you're deciding between, okay, you're stuck on the 9. You're going to scratch the 5 out for a second. You're like, okay, I got to decide. Actually, I shouldn't scratch the 5 out. You got to decide between the 3 and 15 with which one you're going to put with the 9. Okay, 9 doesn't really go with the 15, right? But the 3 and the 9 do. So what if I did 9x squared plus 3x, right? Plus 15x plus 5. Then I could break that in half, right? And then just factor. You find your greatest common factor for each half. So, what's common in the first two? 3x. What's left after you take the 3x out? 3x plus 1. What do you expect to happen on the other side? If you've done this right, you should expect to see a 3x plus 1 spit itself out on the other side. Right? So, what are you going to factor out of these two terms? Yeah, Lucas. Just the 5. Is it positive? It's plus 5. And then it's 3x plus 1. Now that you know both those things are there, you just go done. Was that too fast for everybody or okay? Okay, we've done 2 or 3. I'm just going to try and pick up the tempo a little bit. Yes, go.
So you divide by the 15 by 5.
Yep.
The 5 by 5.
And the 5 by 5, yep. Same thing as the last one, right?
But then, and then the next line, then what happened to the common, like the greatest common factor? You just got rid of it?
So the common factor in this line, you mean?
Yeah.
What do you see in common between, remember there's 2 pieces here. 1, they're separated with a plus sign. What's common between number 1 and 2? 3x plus 1. So I factor it out, write it out front as the common factor. Then I tell everybody else what's left after I take it out. 3x plus 5.
Oh, so that's
Yeah. Okay. All right. What would we like to group here?
Your C.
Yeah,
It looks like it's already
Yeah.
grouped.
it's good. No work to do, right? That's nice. Right? The 3 and the 3 and the 12 look all right. And the 10 and the 40 look good. You got the 2 P's here, and then you've got the PQ and the Q here. Right? So, let's just break it down the middle right from the get-go. What do we got? We got 3P and or 3P squared and 12P. So, trying to find the greatest common factor, which in this case is going to be 3P. What's left after I take that out? You get P minus 4. What are we going to do on the other side? We know what the number's going to be. It's got to be plus 10. And then Q minus. Sorry. Carried away. I got carried away. You're right. Gotta be 10Q because I see a Q in both the terms. And then what's left? You always, now that you know that this is like, if this doesn't come out to match, you've done something wrong. Stop. Fix it. Okay? You can't go any further because the question breaks down at that point. There's nothing common between those other two pieces. You can't factor it out. So if these don't match, like I would have caught when I went to go write that out, they didn't match. So then I would have gone back to fix it. You force it almost, right? So now you're left with, okay, I can factor out the p minus 4 out front. And then what's left? 3p plus 10q. Okay, one more. I think there's some rearranging to do with this one.
The last one? No, try to get it all.
Okay, here's my next question.
Oh, you can do it more than one way.
You can do it more than one way.
I just have to do it.
You can. I said that we had to rearrange because I was looking at the variables. Why? But Reddit was probably looking at the fact that there were Z's here. Right? And then in the second half, you had the 3's that you could take out. Both will work. Okay, it doesn't matter. We can leave it like that, I suppose. Or is anybody opposed to that and just want to do it? Do you want me to shuffle it around or do you want to leave it? I'm always a fan of just leaving it alone. If I don't need to do any extra work, don't do any extra work.
It'll be fine either way.
It's fine either way. So let's break it down the middle. Okay, now with this one, just be careful. There is a negative there, so that's important. Okay. What's common? A z. And then what's left after you do it? Y plus 6.
What number is that again?
D.
D?
Or which one? What do you?
For the bracket.
Oh, Z. It's a Z.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the Z that's in front. That's in here. I'll zoom in a little bit. Is that better? Everybody see that a little better? Okay. And then what's in the second half? This is why I drew the line over a little bit so you could still see the sign there. If I take out negative 3, because I need the piece to be positive is the other side of things I need to think about. So if I take out negative 3, I'm going to get y plus 6. So then your final answer is y plus 6 multiplied by z minus 3. Done. Okay. At the bottom of that, you have the homework questions. Okay, which I'll hand you the sheet.